play Karga's mother sucker. I'm so rad, I'm amazing. I'll sneak into your mom's just to see how good she's tasting. Damn, little man, you a crazy kid. Yo, shut the heck up and suck my stick. Greetings everyone, it is I, Seto-sama the Fanatic on Team Forbidden. Thank you for turning into our YouTube page. Sorry this deck profile took a while to come out. It took a little while to get the cards together for this one. I even argue that it's still not complete. I would not even recommend playing this deck, especially on a competitive level. If you want to play it, it's fun, but it's unfortunately not competitive and it has no chance against the meta whatsoever. It's Neos, boys. Let's get into it. Alright, so reason this deck took a little while to get together, I'll explain in a few moments. But first things off, 2 elemental hero Neos. It kind of breaks at 3. You don't need too many of them. 2's just fine. 3 Neo-Spacian Nectar. This is your normal summon in the deck. For those of you who don't know what this card does, geez, what format have you been playing in? This guy was basically like a main staple in Dark Warrior Turbo. Basically, you normal summon him, you get either an elemental hero Neos or any Neo-Spacian from your deck. You just go summon this, go into this, or go into Aqua Dolphin, rob a card from your opponent's hand, and then go into a Zolt. Speaking of, let's get into the Neo-Spacian engines. 3 Dark Panther. He's at 3 in here, not because he's the best Neo-Spacian, but you will see why in a few moments. Dark Panther basically targets a monster and robs it, basically steals its effects. It's kind of like a Phantom of Chaos, really, except the monster stays on the field and all that good stuff. Next up, 2 of what is arguably the best Neo-Spacian. I mean, he was limited to 1 for a long time. He's not that good anymore, guys. I'm sorry. 1 Aqua Dolphin. You only need the 1. I mean, I don't even run Aqua Neos in here. He's just here because he's a warrior, and he's a water, and he robs cards out of the opponent's hand, and he helps make Storm Neos. Speaking of Storm Neos, Air Hummingbird. I'm only running the ones from BLRR because those are the only good Neo-Spacians if you're playing full on Neos, because Glowmoss is not that good. Flare Scarab is absolutely awful. Magma Neos is okay, but I don't think it's worth the space, especially when you have, well, Nebula Neos. So, yeah, Aqua Dolphin. Grand Mole, didn't explain for those who don't know what it does. I mean, what rock have you been living under? See what I did there. Whenever he battles a monster at the start, before damage calculation even occurs, you would occur both him and the monster that is battling it to the hand. Aqua Dolphin, you pitch a card, and then look at your opponent's hand. If they have a monster with less attack points than a monster that you have on the field in their hand, you send it to the graveyard, destroy it actually, and they take 500 damage. If they don't have a monster that is weaker than any monster you controls, you take 500 damage. Air Hummingbird, I'll be 100% honest, you only use him for Air Neos and Storm Neos. You never use his effect, but if you have to, he gets 500 points for every card in your opponent's hand when you activate his effect. So that's it for the Neo-Spacians. On to the other elemental heroes. 1 elemental hero Honest Neos, only hand trap we run. 1 elemental hero Prisma. You could run more, but I've found that 1 seems to be the best option. 1 elemental hero Shadow Mist. Unfortunately, I tried Stratos in here, didn't work all that well. Shadow Mist is used, you don't use her for the mass change effect, you only use her for the effect for when she's sent to the graveyard. You get a hero monster from your deck to your hand. Normally, you're going to get this guy, and you're going to fuse her with Neos to make Brave Neos. Honest Neos, the effect that you're going to use him for is he pitch him, and any hero monster that you control gains 2500 attack. Prisma, reveal a fusion monster from your extra deck, and then you send 1 material listed from it to the graveyard, and then his name is treated as that monster's for the rest of the turn. And next up, 2 Keeper of Dragonic Magic. He's kind of tricky. I tried the deck without him, but the deck, as much as I hate to say it, the deck needs this card. Helps pitch Shadow Mist when it's dead in your hand, and then you can get a Hero Search, and then you get Neos Fusion. It's literally what you use him for, is you search Neos Fusion now, because Neos Fusion is what makes this deck work. And then 2 Rainbow Dark Dragon, because you can use Rainbow Dragon or Rainbow Dark Dragon for Rainbow Neos, which is, by the way, the best Neos fusion. If you want, maybe we can put up a actual Rainbow Neos deck profile on the channel, but this is a full-on Neo-Spacian Neos deck. By far, though, Rainbow Neos is the best fusion, so you need the Rainbow Darks. Why 2? Because I'm also running another card we'll get to in a moment. Sort of took an inspiration from Cyber Knight's Neo-Spacian deck. He's the only person who's put up a Neos deck. Next, spell cards. 3 Convert Contact. I've gone on record saying this. This is the best draw card in the game. What makes this not played, though, is because, well, let's be honest, these guys just aren't that great on their own. But I've been preaching this card being a fantastic draw card for years. And the best part, sending the Neo-Spacian to the graveyard, I don't think it's the cost. Let me double check. Yeah, no, it's not the cost. So if they ash it, you still have the Neo-Spacians for other stuff. I mean, you don't get to fix your hand, you don't get to send one from the deck to the graveyard, but it fixes your hand, and it gets a Neo-Spacian out of your deck to the graveyard. Next up, 2 Allure of Darkness. This is why we're running 3 Dark Panther. You can banish extra keepers of Dragon Magic. If you draw the Rainbow Dark Dragon, I wouldn't advise it, because you can still use the Neos fusion on it, but you can banish that instead if it's dead in your hand. Next up, this card is both the blessing and the bane of this deck's existence. This card is so good, and it makes the deck playable, but the problem is, it has to be the last card you play. Because after you play this card, you cannot special summon anything else the rest of that turn. But that being said, any Neos, any Elemental Hero, any fusion monster in general, if it lists Elemental Hero Neos as a material and requires only 1 other material, you can play this card and fusion it using materials from your hand, field, or deck. That means you can go into any of them, from Rainbow Neos to the new Brave Neos to Grand Neos to Dark Neos to this guy. We'll get to him later when we do the full profile for the extra deck. And the Neos Knight, you name it, if it requires only 2 materials, you can summon it with this. And then it also has a built-in protection effect as well. So, you know, the Neos monsters, the regular ones, if they would go back to the extra deck during the end phase, you can banish that instead. Or if they would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish it instead. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be going for Rainbow Neos with this card, or Brave Neos. But, really good card, but the problem is you have to play it last. Next, 3 Miracle Contacts. 2 are currently on loan from the collector right now. It's the Ultra ones right here. Basically, this one is, it lets you fuse any Elemental Hero monster that requires Neos as material by shuffling the cards from your hand, field, or graveyard into your deck. So it, again, uses all the resources, but it puts them in the opposite direction. In graveyard instead of deck, of course. It also ignores the summoning conditions. This is what allows you to bring the big boys out on the field, like Nebula Neos, Storm Neos, and Cosmo Neos. We'll get to them when I get to the extra deck. 1 Miracle Fusion, because it feels kind of naked without this card, I'll be quite honest. You can still make Shiny, you can still make Ab-Zero, and Brave Neos is an Elemental Hero monster. So it's a nice little extender that you can do before playing Neos Fusion and going off from there. Hero Lives, you're going to be using this to summon your Prisma, and Prisma can go back into the deck at any point if you want to make it a Neos or a Neo-Spacian for a contact fusion, so this card is always live. 1 Rhoda, you got Prisma, you got the connectors, you need Rhoda. 1 Monster Reborn, because we can have nice things. 3 Called by the Grave, because screw Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom literally kills this deck. Actually, hand traps pretty much kill the deck too. I mean, that's the one major problem, is that it's extremely weak to hand traps. And next, 3 Trap card. For those who don't know what this is, it's basically a themed soul charge for Neos, and it's a trap card also, and it's literally a hand trap. So basically the way this works is when you play this card, you can special summon any number of Neos or Neo-Spacian monsters with different names from your hand or graveyard to your field. they have to have different names. So that means, let's say you have Aqua Dolphin, Air Hummingbird, Grand Mole, and Dark Panther in your graveyard with a Neos in your hand. You can summon all 5 of them at once. And the best part is, if you control no cards at all, you can play it from your hand, just like Infinite Impermanence. What's the downside of this card? As long as those monsters are on the field, you can only fusion summon. You can't make links or anything with it. Had to have a downside, but yeah. So that's it. That's the main deck. It's 40 cards. Next up, we get into the extra deck. First, 1 land for Linkus. You need something that points down 2 monsters, so that way you can get double Rainbow Neos out, or Rainbow Neos and a Brave Neos, or a Shining, or something like that. Most of them are lights, so Hippo Shinnigan is old, because they're pretty much all warriors, except for the Neo-Spacian stuff. Next up, we get into the fusions. Ab-Zero and Shining. These are mostly here because of Miracle Fusion, and I just like these guys. These are probably my favorite hero fusion monsters of all time. This mofo is expensive, for the only reason being he's only had 1 printing, which I find impossible to believe. They literally reprinted every other Neos fusion in GX Legendary Collection except him. Why? I have no clue. And he's the reason this deck took so long to build, because you need this card, because the OTKs that you make with this card are insane. So basically, you guys should all know what Shining and Ab-Zero do, so I'm not going to explain that. Air Neos. Each Neo-Spacian fusion has a different effect. Air Neos' effect is if your life points are lower than your opponent's, he gains that attack. And then all of the standard Neos fusions go back into the extra deck during the end phase if you don't have the field spell, or you have Neos fusion in the graveyard to banish. Dark Neos is Neos and Neo-Spacian Dark Panther. He targets a monster on the field, and then as long as he's on the field, that monster's effects are negated. Kinda nice. You turn off Colossus and then get your searches. If they have only 1 Colossus, problem is they have multiple Colossus, well, there's not really too much you can do, but then you can still run them over, because they can now be destroyed by battle. Grand Neos. Arguably the second best elemental hero to fusion Neos. I used to think he was a quick effect. He unfortunately is not. He's only usable during your turn, but he's still pretty nice. The ability to bounce a monster, even though it's targeting, is nice. Next up, for the 3 contact fusions, we have Elemental Hero Storm Neos. You summon this, it's pretty much self-explanatory. You summon this against any back row deck, nuke their back row. When he leaves the field, you shuffle all cards on the field into the deck. This is single-handedly, in my opinion, the best 3 contact Neos fusion. I mean, they really did a good job with this card. Basically, he's summoned, you draw cards equal to the number of cards your opponent controls, and then when that effect resolves, you negate the effect of a card on the field. So it's absolutely phenomenal. Oh yeah, and we have that whole problem with Azathoth running around. Hey, Neo-Spacians have an Azathoth too, except this one goes back into the extra deck during the end phase, and he's almost not worth it to get out. But you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. 35 beater, and once he's summoned, you can activate the effect, and opponent can't activate any more cards that turn. Yeah, cards, not just monster effects. So if they have any set spells and traps, use them or lose them. Next up, 2 Brave Neos. Only 2, because the extra X space is a little tight. Plus, I never found myself going into 3. And then 2 Rainbow Neos. I mean, this is a pretty old card, so I imagine a lot of you guys don't know what this does. But it's Elemental Hero Neos plus either Rainbow Dragon or Rainbow Dark Dragon, or you could even use that. Technically, you can use that new fusion monster as well if you wanted to. The Rainbow Over Dragon, because it's supposed to be Elemental Hero Neos plus 1 ultimate crystal monster. But he's got 3 different effects. You can only use 1 of them per turn. You can either send a monster that you control to the graveyard to shuffle all monsters back into the deck. You can send a spell and trap card you control to the graveyard to return all spells and traps to the deck. Or you can send the top card of your deck to the graveyard to return all cards in your opponent's graveyard into their deck. So, yeah, he's single-handedly the best fusion. The problem is he's not an elemental hero, but what can you do? He'd be broken if you could. So, yeah, that's it. If you like, feel free to comment, make suggestions, or try the deck out yourself. You've heard my warning. If you like, keep getting your game on. Like, comment, subscribe, and we will catch you guys later.